This is for the collective that feels as though their world is falling apart at the moment. When we look out at the global landscape, let alone within our own lives, it feels like there is a lot going on. Like this eclipse has come in like a wrecking ball, and a lot of people are really, really feeling it. So, this video is for you if you feel like you're one of those people at the moment that is just seeing everything that they thought they knew crumble around them. But this is a message of optimism, it's a message of possibility, because sometimes it's in those darkest moments, those moments where it feels like everything is crumbling down around us, where actually we are really coming to know who we came here to be. Sometimes we find that when we're going through these really bleak times and it feels like everything is crumbling, all your safety, all your sense of self, what it's really doing is bringing with it an opportunity. So I'm just here to remind you today that even if times feel tough, this could be what is your rebirth. Now, I know from my own personal experience of being through trauma after trauma and bouncing back every time, that each time for me, each time it's felt like my whole world is falling apart, actually there was a greater opportunity that was waiting to emerge. And sometimes we're so comfortable in our surroundings that if it was up to us, we wouldn't shift, we wouldn't make the changes that's necessary. So sometimes the universe has to come in with what feels like a wrecking ball, smash your little world apart, leave you feeling like you're sat in the dust and the ash of a huge catastrophic explosion, and you're there naked and vulnerable, feeling frightened and scared about what's to come next. But let this be your opportunity. Let this be your opportunity to reimagine what you want life to look like. Let this be your opportunity to reimagine who you really want to be in this world. Because once you've been torn apart, once your safety has been compromised, once the world that you know has crumbled, you have a real great opportunity to rebuild it now in your vision. So, if you are feeling as though this is you, there's a few things that you can do to help you in the process. And it's hard when you're sitting there in the dust and the ash, feeling naked and vulnerable, trying to think, how am I going to pull myself together? Me again? Why me? Why do I feel like I'm always having to go through these trials and challenges? When is it my chance to just live that soft life, live in peace? But here you are again, going through another challenge. But it's because there's more for you to give, there's more for you to become. You haven't seen your best self yet. So as you find yourself sitting in the ashes and you begin to clean your wounds, how do you want to start rebuilding? And sometimes when we're going through these real deep transition points and these changes that feel so far outside of our control, we can be so in the thick of our pain, so in the thick of everything just feeling so absolutely impossible. It's hard to believe that there is any light at the end of the tunnel. But this is where we get the opportunity to really rise to the occasion. And it does take a lot of discipline when you've been torn apart and you're lying with your face in the dirt. It's easy to want to stay there and indulge in your pain and your suffering. And don't get me wrong, it all has a place. You have to feel, you have to give space for the hardships, you have to give space for all the ways that you feel like you've been done wrong by life. But then it's knowing how to move beyond that. It's knowing how to then start mining that catastrophe zone for the diamonds and the gems that are waiting to emerge. So for me, throughout my life, I've been through some big challenges, not unlike anybody else. So I had my boyfriend who died when I was 18. I went through an abusive relationship, which was really difficult. I went through a long period of infertility. I had a spinal cord injury. And at the time, each one of those felt like it was the worst thing that had ever happened. And each one of those also, at some point, made me feel as though that was it, you know. But I sit here now in hindsight, looking back at all these difficult times with a real sense of pride at what I've been able to glean about myself and who I have been able to come throughout all of these challenges. And my hope for you is that you can do the same. So, by just delving into a little bit of self reflection, just acknowledge what is hurting for you right now. What has this incident or instance done to your sense of safety? Where has it made you feel vulnerable? Ask yourself those questions. I swear by a journal. Like, I've always got my journal. I've got notebooks everywhere because for me, when I'm going through those really difficult times, those impossibly difficult times when you don't want to get out of bed and you feel so heavy and weighty underneath the pain of what it is that you've been through, and it's easy to want to stay there. But I find my journal so helpful, and it really helps me to process things at quite an efficient rate, shall we say, because so much of it is energy. And when we go through these big things, it stirs up all the energy and we can feel weighty underneath it. But if we then find these outlets to help us process, to help us reflect, and to help us think about, you know, the things that are in our heads so we don't hold on to them and bury them into our subconscious. Just pull out your journal and let it know all about how you're feeling. Let it know all about the ways that you feel like you've been done wrong. And then once you've had, this can be over a period of days, weeks, months. Like, my journal is an ongoing thing. I pick it up and pull it out. But I have to say, when life is good, I'm less likely to call on it, but it's one of the best tools in my box for when things are not feeling like they're going my way. It helps me to offload, it helps me to reflect, and it helps me to move through. So once you've done that, once you've been going through this process, and these things can happen simultaneously. It's not like, one day you just had enough of journaling and then you can start thinking about the future. You can still be processing all the hardships and at the same time start thinking about maybe some of the lessons that you've learned from what you've been through. And those lessons aren't always evident straight away. It can take some time for those to emerge, but you can start thinking about what wasn't quite ideal about that circumstance in the first place. How might you like things to look different in the future? And then use your journal as a creation launch pad. What do you want to change? What can you do? Because we've got so much more in our control than sometimes I think we allow ourselves to believe. It's easy for us to feel like, we're at the whim of the things that happen to us, but we find so much power and resilience when we're like, okay, this has happened and it's rubbish and it hurts and I don't like it and it's not nice. But what can you take from it? How can you grow from it? How can you make things better from it? You might want to start thinking about the way that you treat yourself, how well you pour self love into yourself, how kind you are to yourself. What are you doing to show yourself the love and respect that you deserve? What are you feeding your body with? How are you moving your body? What thoughts are you holding on to? What past versions of yourself are you holding on to? And what past versions of yourself are you ready to let go of? Because sometimes, like when I had my spinal cord injury, that was such a good opportunity for me to do a total life evaluation and see where I wasn't really living in my brightest light and think, do I really want to bring those behaviours with me into the future? Are there ways that I can live an even better life in spite of the fact now that I'm living with this disability? So for me, it was looking at work. It was looking at the way I'd been out of alignment for many years in terms of what I was supposed to be doing. So I really allowed myself the opportunity to reassess all of that and to follow my heart. to slow down enough to think the spinal cord injury forced me off the hamster wheel. And then I had the opportunity to really look and think, what do I want for my life? So it's finding the opportunity within these moments and then, creating the behaviors to support the changes. Because it's all very well and good saying, oh, yeah, I want this to change, I want that to change. But you have to be a willing participant in this game of life. You have to be willing to perhaps get a little bit uncomfortable, to do things that you haven't ordinarily done. And this is why it helps to start visualizing what it is that you do want for yourself, what it is that you do want for your life. Because once you can start to conjure that vision and that image of who you want to be and where you want to be, you can start realigning your behaviors and making some shifts. And really, this is where we begin to start aligning our energy with who we want to become. And that's all transformation is. It's accepting who we've been, thinking about who we want to become, and then making those adjustments to align ourselves with the energy of who we want to become. And, people think about manifestation. It's not just, close your eyes, think about £10 million and it's going to pop up. It's like, get yourself into the energy of that. What is that £10,000 about for you? What is it going to enable you to do? I mean, it's not the best example, really, but is it because you want to set up a project that helps other women? So start thinking, what's that going to look like? What does the person that leads that project look like? How do I need to start operating today to show up as that person and start making those shifts? You might be super, super shy, but I've got these dreams of, I don't know, sharing your story on social media or hosting these spaces for women. So, what adjustments do you need to start making to start building your confidence? And I know a lot of people that I speak to who have got these desires to share their story because they've been through stuff. But then they're like, oh, I don't like the camera. I don't want to be on the camera. I used to be like that too. I'm not mad about it now. I've just sat for about half an hour twiddling my thumbs, moving about, doing everything, you know, but just record. I'm still trying to get into the swing of it. But back in the day, I was so much more anxious and nervous than I am now. It's been a process of practice and being willing to do it, being willing to get uncomfortable, being willing to make the shifts and the changes to move you closer to who you want to be. How can I bring my life experience and spirit wisdom to you, beautiful soul on YouTube or online or wherever you are, if I'm not willing to get in front of the camera and get that little bit uncomfortable and be willing to, you know, look silly or feel uncomfortable? So it's being willing to make the changes that you need to. If you know that you're not treating your body with the care that it deserves, what does that healthier, more aligned version of you look like? How do they move through the day? What's their morning routine? You start thinking about the behaviors and then you can start aligning yourself with the behaviors. So, I'm just referring to my notes. So, if you can just have a little think about 3 small ways that you can start to pull back into yourself during a time of crisis so that you can, yeah, find your anchor again and steady yourself in the storm, even when the sea is raging around you. Because at the moment, there is so much out in the world that we can't control. And it can feel frightening, can feel frightening. We've got these little devices in our hands that we're always looking at. And if you're on social media all the time, it's like, ugh, the world it feels like a pretty scary place at the moment. But what we really need now, more than ever, is for each of us to be consciously doing that inner work so that we can look at these things, look at the ways that we're not totally in our light, look at the ways that we are not aligned with our highest version of ourselves and think about how we can start moving towards it. Because the more of us that are healing the past and reviewing the outdated ways of being, some people will go through their whole lives without even reviewing how they're conducting themselves. And it's such a missed opportunity. So, yeah, just start having a little think about some of the things that you can let go of, some of the things that you're ready to move beyond, and some of the ways that you are ready to now embody that version of you that you know is waiting to emerge. Because I'm confident that if you're part of this collective, you will have that intuitive knowing that you are here for more. So this is just the slow process of anchoring ourselves in the storms, using it as an opportunity to mine for those little gems that come when we find ourselves in these catastrophic moments, so that we can regain our power, gain clarity on who we are, so we're not at the whim of the storm. So, yeah, I think that's about it for today. But don't forget to stay hydrated. You know, if we're overstimulated with everything that's going on, keep hydrated. Don't let that be something that we need to worry about. Make sure that you are nourishing your body with the food that it needs. Be mindful of what you're consuming. Staying hydrated will help you move the emotions through your body and just bring into place the support networks that you need, the tools like the journal that you need, and make sure that there's some nourishing content that you can consume to support you in this journey when things can feel extremely tender. So that's it for today. We are just warming up. I'm just getting used to trying to let this channel flow again after being deep in the writing cave for a long time. So bear with me. But let me know who's listening in the comments. Give me a little signal. Let me know you're there. And if there's anything in particular that you want us to talk about, think about, or cover, then yeah, just let me know in the comments. But until then, my friend, I will leave you there with nothing but love, wishing you peace, and I'll catch you soon.